just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Call me if you need a friend. Call me, if you need a friend.
I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down. I feel my heart start to trembling whenever you're around. Oh, baby, when I see your face, mellow as the month of May. Oh, darling, I can't stand it when you look at me that way. I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down. I feel my heart start to trembling whenever you're around. Ooh, darling, when you're near me and you tenderly call my name, I know that my emotions are something I just can't tame. I just got to have you, baby. Yeah. I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down, tumbling down. I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down, tumbling down. I just lose control down to my very soul. I get a hot and cold all over, all over, all over, all over. I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down, tumbling down. I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down.
You can play the game and you can act out the part, so you know it wasn't written for you. So tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed of playing the fool? But one thing can lead to another. It doesn't take any sacrifice. Oh, father and mother, sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice, just Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Well, you can run, but you cannot hide. This is widely known. And what you plan to do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone? Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to ease. I think it's true what they say about this squeaky wheel, always getting the grease. Better to shower the people you love with love, yes, and show them the way that you feel. I know things are gonna be just fine if you only will. What I'd like to do to you, shower the people you love with love, show them the way you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Yeah, show them the way that you feel. Oh, yeah. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Shower the people you feel better right away with love. Don't take much space.
Way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Someday wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you gave to, oh, why can't I see trees of green and red roses too. I watch them rain for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue, and I see clouds of white, and there's bright Christmas breeze.
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till
morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming. It's nice to see everybody. It feels a little bit far away, so I'm going to say good morning. I'm going to ask y'all to give me some love back and say good morning, too. So good morning. So welcome. Thank you for those of you who are in person and also those of you who are online. Thank you so much for joining us to celebrate, to remember, and to recognize the role that my dad played for all of us in all of our lives. So in putting together this service, we wanted to put together a mix of things that my dad loves, activities my dad loves, people my dad loves, and people who love my dad. So during the next hour, we'll have a mix of poems. We'll have a mix of people who are talking about my dad. We'll have songs that you can sing along to and songs that you can listen to. And Vern Rempel will be officiating the service today. Vern is a Mennonite pastor who is a piano player in addition to being a pastor and also a fan of the blues. And he initially connected with my dad through his work with the Center for Courage and Renewal. I first heard about Vern because my dad would tell me each time he had the chance to listen to one of Vern's sermons, and it wasn't every week, it didn't happen every week, but when he did have the chance to drive down to Denver and sit in the congregation while Vern spoke and sang and played piano, he made sure to tell me about it because he loved it so much. So we were really excited that Vern is excited and willing to join us and officiate this service today. And so I'm going to start by passing the mic over to Vern, who will begin our service today with a blues meditation.
Well, I do love the blues, and I loved Dan. Dan was very enthusiastic about music. It was really cool. And part of the reason we wanted to have some sing-along today is because Dan loved to sing along. I am tempted just to break into Hey Jude. He could really rock that one. But it's lovely to be with you today, a blessing. It's a privilege to honor Dan's life as we gather together, as we have the opportunity to show each other the love and joy that has been poured into our lives. So I thought of this poem with Dan. God says yes to me. And I'm a little bit stuffy today because I just had minor nasal surgery, so that was an exciting thing this week, but came out of it so far. All right. I asked God if it was okay to be melodramatic, and she said yes. I asked her if it was okay to be short, and she said, sure is. I asked her if I could wear nail polish or not wear nail polish, and she said, honey, she calls me that sometimes. She said, you can do exactly what you want to. Thanks, God, I said. And is it okay if I don't paragraph my letters? Sweet cakes, God said. Who knows where she picked that up? What I'm telling you is yes, yes, yes. Kaylin Hout, beautiful poem. Well, thanks be to Spirit for the life of Dan Liston. He is a bright, bright star in my firmament. He is a bright star in the firmament total. We are mourning. The pathway of grief is what it is, circuitous, impossible, not subject to rationalization. Even while we find ways to keep walking, there are still trees and birds, and Dan is still gone. How do we hold all of that? Now, I want to ask, how did Dan bless my life? Dan exhibited a quality that matters a lot to me. I get very annoyed with drivers who speed by me when I am walking or running or bicycling. And I do realize how tightly wound and rushed our culture can be. And I admit to getting self-righteous myself, for I too have sinned in word and deed, as the liturgical formula goes. But what I experienced with Dan was a capacity to slow down to the speed of reflection. Slowing down even to the speed of the possibility of change and reintegration. So I am grateful. Let's see. Dan, a small list. Hats, hummingbirds, a strong laugh, listening with a sparkle in his eyes, a comfort with silence, C.G. Jung's big red book of dreams and fantasies, and soulfulness, like the blues. I remember Dan noticing things. Michelle reminded me that Dan would notice hummingbirds. Hummingbirds as a sign, a marker on the pathway of hope. David White, in his poem, Everything is Waiting for You, says, alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. I remember Dan being alert, noticing the world and looking at you, not with judgment, but in order to discern how to connect and see what you had to offer, what you had going on. In Dan's world, people had stuff going on, and he was going to help that become evident. Expressive interest and kindness. Maybe not so much sweet kindness, but let's say capable kindness, a capacious kindness. Our poet, David White, in that same poem says, "Surely even you have noticed the grand array and the swelling presence and the hidden chorus crowding out your solo voice." So I'm saying, Dan noticed. What if when we see the hummingbird, the dragonfly, the color purple, are we noticing the grand array and that we in our lives, short or long, are caught up in it, caught up in something that is so much more than we can imagine, a humming, buzzing web of joy and liveliness, an ecstasy at the heart of things, beneath all our sorrow and loss and puzzlement and interruption. We sometimes rightly say, "What the hell, life?" And life replies, "You're not wrong, but what about this?" Do not all the entangled particles and gravitational waves of the universe cry out like Bach's Mass in B minor, "Kyrie, Kyrie, eleison"? Do not all the hummingbird's vibrations carry the rhythm of the saints, close to our hearts and in the most distant places? What if there is something there, alive and shimmering with unstoppable light, so that life is not a crash course in conflict and dying, but rather it is a luminous invitation to love? What if life is a luminous invitation to love? What if there is love at the heart of the universe, and it is dreaming all day long and well into the night, as C.G. Jung might say, the universe is dreaming? John 14:27 says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid." What if the offer here is not, God help us, some new necessary religion? We're always creating new necessary religions. But what if the offer here is love? What if that's what's on offer? My peace I leave with you. Will we notice the ancient and future song of joy, ineffably, inexplicably, but persistently stretching out around us and before us, present and eternal? Thanks be for the life of Dan. Let us welcome Dan's inspiration, hold his life, walk the pathway of loss and of gathering, and turn once again to love each other. Like the hummingbird, like lovely dreams, as if everything is waiting for you. All right, it is sing-along time. Let it be. Or as they used to say on Sesame Street, let her be. Or you learned let her be. All right. All right, am I on here? Yes, okay. This is not a solo, I hope. when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Yeah, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Oh, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. But though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they may see. There will be an answer, let it be. Well, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. And let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. When the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine on till tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Well, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Yeah, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Oh, thank you. That was beautiful. All right, I'll MC it a little bit. So we have three folks who are going to be sharing a little bit with us at this time. So welcome and thank you for your sharing.
So when Michelle asked me if I would say something, of course the answer is yes. And I actually did write remarks. We'll see if I can deliver them or not. And when I sat down to write them, I initially hoped to try and just bring the humor of this moment in a way that honors Dan's devilish, understated delight in contradictions, the twinkle in his eye, and the easy smile, and frankly, it was a chortle that he brought to many conversations. But mostly I'm heartbroken. And though tempted to talk about the deeply, deeply humane way Dan approached all he did in the School of Ed, I decided to focus on the way he connected with children. Dan was a child whisperer. At any gathering that included kids, Dan found his way to the youngest in attendance to ensure they were having a good time. So Derek Briggs can tell you about the time that Dan and Lucas shared a lollipop at a School of Ed party, or Michelle can tell you about how Dan, in full academic regalia, put his knowledge of Jung to the test and to best use by telling fortunes at a Halloween event at the Lafayette Public Library. And I just love that idea of Dan, just like, so tell me about, and he would, and they had no idea that his words of wisdom there were really Jung's. And I just want to say he made a tremendous difference in all three of my children's lives. He gave Stan his first job, picking up Ellie's nuggets in their backyard. And on Saturday or Sunday morning, I would drive Stan over. Dan would still be in his bathrobe, and he would pour coffee for the two of us, not Stan. And then as Stan started, Dan would gently prod him to notice overlooked heaps. I'm 100% confident that Stan missed as much as he picked up. But Dan kept inviting him back, confident he would improve. And I am so grateful Dan was Stan's first boss, guiding him with dignity through his initial foray into the world of work. Now, on to Kenzie. When we were moving back to California, as Kenzie was just beginning her junior year at CU, she was pretty upset with me in general. More specifically, she was perturbed that she was losing access to my office and a quiet place to work on campus. And Dan came to the rescue. He snuck her an office key, and she therefore had access. I don't know if she used it. I haven't asked her yet. She did. She used it. Sorry. Okay, well, the School of Ed's no longer in that building anyway. But that was her personal study. And while Kenzie and I now understand that her dread of transitions really lay at the center of that summer's unhappiness with me and the world in general, I'm grateful to Dan for offering her much-needed sanctuary. Now, turning to Brooke. Dan always had pistachio nuts for her. He knew she loved them, and he always had a bag of pistachios for her. And we could count on him to join us, or if we invited him to go see whatever summer's blockbuster was that year. And so when Brooke was 8, we sat in a super well-chilled theater to experience Pixar's WALL-E. And all of us were absolutely transfixed by the 35 minutes of dialogue-free visual storytelling. In addition to movies, Dan attended nearly every one of Brooke's birthday parties from 1st to 6th grade. So at her 1st grade party, which was puppy-themed, he guffawed at the antics. Everybody brought a stuffed puppy dog, and we played relay races with those puppy dogs in the backyard, and Dan just guffawed all the way through it. At the 2nd grade party, which was magic themed, we showed delight. He saved the magician that I had hired because he was really kind of feeble at his tricks. I got what I paid for. Anyway, but Dan, with such grace, just encouraged the kids, and he modeled, just go along with it. And at every sleight of hand that was pretty obvious, even to 2nd graders, he just went along with it, and he made that party. And I will say that my favorite was the 6th grade birthday party, which was the Cupcake Wars theme, which was at the time the show of the everybody watched it, and we had a cupcake-themed party, Cupcake Wars party at Stir It Up in South Boulder, which no longer exists as a cooking school for kids. But Dan came, and he was the judge. And I just want you to know he was a judge, as you can imagine, extraordinaire, because he noticed every single detail of the kids' cupcakes, right down to really pretty sloppy decorations. And he watched the show, I think, to be able to emulate the voice of the judges. And he gave both heartfelt, fair, and accurate feedback to all of the kids that in hindsight was just hilarious. And it was his infectious delight that I remember. And so to bring my remarks to a close, I imagine that many of us here today have your own stories about how Dan noticed and engaged your children. And I invite you to please share them with Michelle, Matthew, Jess, so that they can pass along to Rory, who's down here, hilariously dancing and playing. But they can tell stories to Rory about his grandfather, the child whisperer.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. For the past 7 years or so, Dan and I made sure to talk at least once a month. And even though our relationship started defined as teacher and student, Dan was so much more than an influential teacher to me. He's the closest thing to a father that I've ever had. Dan had this amazing ability to help me cherish exactly who I am at any given moment while challenging me to strive for more. I can't count, and I'm sure this goes for a lot of people out here, I can't count the number of times that I heard, "Oh, Austin," followed by questioning my taste in movies, books, and my life choices. One particularly difficult night in my life, Dan helped me to feel less lost. He could simply challenge my perspective and hold space for me to figure it out. He somehow knew exactly where I would land, even when I didn't know where I was starting. I thanked him for his guidance that night, and he responded, "It's what we do for the people we love." And over the last few years, Dan began to read more fiction, thank goodness, finally. And he especially grew to appreciate the author Marilyn Robinson and her book, Gilead. I was actually able to read that book at Dan and Michelle's house one summer when they asked me to dog sit. And Sadie and I sat outside in the sun with the garden flowers as a backdrop reading. I felt so connected to Dan, being in his house and being part of his life. I didn't feel like a guest. It was a space that I belonged. In the book, there's a quote, memory can make a thing seem to have been much more than it was. It can be tempting in death to make a person more than they were, but it's not a temptation with Dan. In that moment at their house, I knew exactly who Dan was to me. He was everything that I ever imagined a father would be. Even through those many, oh, Austins with the head roll and the eyes closed, I never felt like I had to justify myself. It always felt like Dan was seeing something deeper, a truer part of me that I didn't always have access to. And in very challenging moments, he would remind me that I did have my own access, that I could use those low moments to grow, and I think we both helped to fill a gap for each other. The day that I learned that Dan passed, I had tickets to see the now cinematic classic, equal to WALL-E, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Which is a movie that I don't think Dan would have been excited to see at all. But in the movie, Sonic is sharing his pain over the death of a loved one, and he's looking at the night sky and the distant stars, and another character reminds him, "The light shines even though the star is gone." I cried when I heard that line. I was probably the only adult in the theater, surrounded by lots of kids laughing, and I'm sitting there crying in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So I cried when I heard that line, and then I laughed, knowing that Dan would be absolutely baffled by me seeing that movie. And after it was over, I thought, I'm going to spend the majority of my life without Dan in it. But that's not completely true. because just like the star in the movie, just like that quote, he's present even though he's gone. And it's a light that helps illuminate and guide. And Dan knew that I viewed him as a father, and I think that's a specific type of radiant starlight that's never going to go out. Thank you.
I'll tell you right away that Jenny, you and Austin were people that I thought I knew because Dan, in the times that we talked a lot about you two. I had times, Austin, where Dan would say, "Oh, Steve," and he, I was an English teacher. I still am an English teacher, so to speak, and I'm glad he got into fiction eventually. He and I had the grand opportunity after he said, "Who is this Willa Cather?" And I said, "Oh, she's one of my favorite novelists." And I made my kids, and maybe if you ever read it, you'd go, "Why would you do that to freshmen in high school?" But we read My Antonia, and Dan read it, and he said, "Okay, what are we going to do with this?" And Dan and I were world travelers, as long as that world was Colorado and a small town in Nebraska called Red Cloud, which is where Willa Cather was born and grew up as a child. And we just became, I loved hearing what people have said because Dan was a child, whether he was down on the ground doing his thing, whether he was picking out the most vulnerable person in the room and reaching out to that person. And in a second, you're going to realize that person in one scenario was me. And sure, we went to Red Cloud, but Dan had the great idea. He said, "Hey, I did a little research. Why don't you and I stay the night in Willa Cather's house?" And I didn't know that existed. And I'm an aficionado of hers, and sure, there was there, and we rented it like a VRBO, and we went in, and the bed we had to sleep in was a full-sized bed for Dan and me that was the maid's bed. And, no problems there, except when we decided to hunker down to go to sleep, and Dan took his shirt off. And every one of these photos, Dan's got his shirt off. I want to say in the first 25 years of his life when he was just macho and hot. But all he ever was when I was with him was hot. And so he would lay down, and he got into bed, and he said, "Steve, you going to lay down?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I guess." But he would always snore just so happily. And yet, in the middle of the night, it was Dan who elbowed me and said, "Steve, should we?" And I said, "Should we what?" And he said, "Willa Cather's bedroom is down the hall." And I said, "I know, Dan. And did you see the stanchions and the little velvet thing that said no?" And Dan then started the thing like, "You baby." And I said to him, and it felt like middle school, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I won't tell you ultimately what happened that night, but we did, I think, spend a little time sleeping on top of her bed. But this is only matched by the time, Matthew, that he took me up to see you teach. And I was an at-risk teacher where I taught, one of the things I did. And Dan said, "Yeah, Steve, you think you're a good teacher. Let me show you a good teacher." And off we went to Estes Park, and I had a chance to see a true master at work. You're you've got your dad's qualities. Yeah, you have your mom's, and that's your saving grace. But you have your dad's qualities, and what he could do with kids who were on the edge was amazing. And then I went up there, and Dan and I had decided, hey, we'll spend the night. Where did we wind up? The Stanley Hotel. Now, again, Dan goes in, and there's, I let him make the reservations. There was one bed. It was a queen, a little bit bigger. But when we were going to sleep, Dan stripped his shirt off, and he laid in there on his side, and he said, "Steve, you going to come to bed?" And I said, "Okay." And so I laid down, and here's the thing. Dan, in the Stanley Hotel, I'm an English teacher. I read The Stand. I read, I saw the Nicholson movies. I read The Shining. I knew what was in that hotel, and I really, sometimes we wake up in the morning and said, "I didn't sleep last night." I did not sleep at night because I kept waiting for those two ghostly children to come in and take me, and Dan slept like a baby. Well, I wanted to tell you my story of meeting Dan has to do with the courage work and the courage to teach. And I had been 30 years already teaching when I had the opportunity to get involved in one of the retreat sessions. And so I went in, and I'd worked really, really hard to try to get, quote, a scholarship from my school to go because they wanted only nerdy things. And I was trying to come up with how the courage retreat was nerdy. And it worked. They paid for it. I walk in, and who's up there but Dan, who I don't know. And within 5 minutes of being there, he has told the 25, 30 people that he is a father-mother. So when you call him your dad, my dad was a father, and there wasn't a lot of mothering in his personality. But Dan exuded the mother-father combination. I am the father of girls. I coached girls. I taught lots of girls. There's more girl in me, as my wife Tina would tell you, than there is big macho, Dan. And so I immediately gravitated to, who is this man? And as the 4 or 5 days happened and Dan taught us, the spiritual element in education, it was necessary for we as teachers to take that on because we had to heal kids and encourage that in them. So Dan and I talked a lot over the 4 days, and when the 4 days were over, I really felt like us here. It's really kind that everybody came. We showed up. And of course you'd say, well, of course we showed up. We're showing up for Dan. We're showing up for Michelle. We're showing up for Ira. We're showing up for Matthew. We're surely showing up for Jess and for dear Rory. That's why we're here, but we are mirroring something that Dan, when we weren't looking, did for us. So I had this feeling, Dan's my guy. I went up after the classes were all over, and I said to him, Dan, listen, I would love to come up to see you and watch you teach. And he turned to me with that, I'll call it a shit-eating smile. I'm sorry, in this space. But he said, Steve, I can't have you do that. And after 4 days of someone nurturing me, I didn't need somebody to say, no, I can't do that. He said, it's a nice idea, he goes, but I don't mix this professionalism with the professionalism at school. I just can't do it, and I'm sorry. And I said, okay, and of course, crestfallen. So I turn, and I haven't taken one step, and somebody grabs my arm, and I turn, and it's Dan. And he said, I just want you to understand that I can't do this. That's mixing two hemispheres, and I can't do this. And I said, I get it, Dan. And so I turned to say bye, and maybe I should scoot out of here and evaluate why I thought this guy was great. And I took 2 more steps, and someone's grabbing me, and I turn around, and he said, I just want you to understand I can't have you come to school with me. And, there's that fine line between wanting to punch somebody's face in. And it's like I said, Dan, I get it. You don't have to keep, reminding me. And so I turned to walk out, and he grabbed me again. And I turned around, and it was at that point I thought, I don't know what to do with this guy. And he was smiling ear to ear. He said, you know, I've never done this. He said, I can't do this. But when can you come to class and be with me? And so I had a chance to spend 3 or 4 times with him. I got to co-teach one of the graduate classes with him. He came down and taught with me. We started doing in Dan, I say we're doing dumb things. Well, of course we were. We were having a great time, and so we would write poems together. We would do all of these things. And I think the most important element is Dan showed up for me. And he showed up for Austin, and he showed up for Jenny, and for all of us. You know, we're here because Dan showed up and was touched. One of Tina's and my favorite poems comes out of a song by one of our favorite singers. And Dan knew this song, and a matter of fact, if you're a Courage person, you know that Carrie Newcomer was a constant person at some of the national conferences. And this comes from a poem, this comes from a song called Stones in the River. And these are the words. And this is one of 2 I'm going to share with you where you got to put Dan at the center of this. Are we ready? So today I'll drop stones into the river, and the current takes them out into forever. And the truth is, most of us will never know where our best intentions go. And still, I'll drop a stone into the river. And we all have our extended metaphors. This is Dan. Could you just take for a second, and then I will be done, the backside of your program? And for this, and if you don't have yours, if you could look on with somebody, I want you to picture the narrator of this as a person with one of Dan's hats. For me, I'll take the gray one. And I would sometimes say, Dan, it's summertime. I think this is against the rules of common decency that you would wear this hat. And but here we go. So there's Dan, and let's put it for you and me. Dan is the narrator. The grasshopper in here is you and me. And when Dan is wandering around, as Michelle has told us and reminded us, picking things up off the ground, or as our youngest daughter would say, these were treasures. He's doing this to us. So it reads, who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who's gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes? Now, she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't exactly know what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So I would say that if we take stones in our life and toss them into the river, we don't know where it's going, but it's going someplace good. Dan is proof of that. And every place I went, walking through the countryside, Dan would sit and pick stuff up. But he picked us up. He picked us, the grasshoppers, up. And so you don't know where these things are going, but Dan is about the best role model I can think of. Sorry I went long. Thank you.
This is a Mississippi Fred McDowell blues tune called You Gotta Move. Now I'm thinking about moving from the maid's bed to Willa Cather's bed. I'm not sure. I don't know. But there are a lot of ways to move. This is one that Michelle and Matt and I talked about. It's one of my favorite blues standards. You've got to move. You've got to move. You've got to move, child. You've got to move. But when the soul gets ready, you've got to move. You may be high, you may be low, you may be rich, child, you may be poor, but when the soul gets ready, you've got to move. You've got to move. You've got to move. You've got to move, child. You've got to move. But when the soul gets ready, you've got to move. All right, and we have a reading from Kathy, beautiful poem called "'Tis a Fearful Thing."
Good morning. So Dan was a cherished friend and colleague who I loved and who, as all of you have heard and all of you know, was brimming with love. This is called "'Tis a Fearful Thing" by Yehuda Halevi. "'Tis a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be. To be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love, what death has touched."
Thank you. Beautiful. Wonderful poem. All right. Well, we got to go a little New Orleans here. So please stand in spirit or in person. And our singers are going to join us. Well, whatever. So we're going to do saints, and then we're going to do the verse about Dan, and then we're going to reprise saints. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in. Oh, Brother Dan, you are my friend. Oh, Brother Dan, you are my friend. Yes, you're gonna be in that number when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints marching in. When the saints go marching in. Lord, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. One more time. Oh, when the saints go marching in. When the saints go marching in. Lord, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in.
Thank you so much, Vern. That was awesome. And thank you all once again for joining us today. In the months since he died, it's really been an honor to hear about how my dad touched so many different people's lives in so many different ways. And so in just a few minutes, we're going to wrap up today's service. And if you're available, we'd love to have you for a reception in the main area, and that'll go till 1. And our hope for the reception is that folks can continue to connect with each other and share stories about my dad. And so to help accomplish that, we have a few tables set up in the reception area with different activities. And so one of the tables is for people to leave any found objects that you brought today. I saw a bunch of people bringing in found objects as they were coming in. And so found objects is the phrase my mom has been using for the crap that my dad found while he was out and about, and then decided to display it on our shelves. And these could be anything that struck his eye. Sometimes they were robin eggs or hummingbird nests or action figures or pine cones. Even a basket of oranges he let dry out on his windowsill and then proudly displayed on our coffee table. And so for most of my life, I kind of rolled my eyes at his ability to just find crap that would collect dust on our shelves. But in recent years, I've come to appreciate kind of how other people were talking about his ability to pay attention to the world around him and notice little nuggets of magic as he walked through each day. And so if you brought a nugget of magic or want to see what other people have found, please stop by that table of found objects. And our second activity is organized by a group of people who are led by Steve, who you heard from earlier today. And this activity has a bit of a backstory. So my dad, as you may know, he spent much of his life searching for a spiritual practice that fit him and provide answers to the questions he had about life. And in this searching process, he shopped around a lot. He would try out masses at different Christian congregations regularly and enjoyed sitting in on the occasional mass carried out entirely in Latin. For a while in my middle school years, he and I attempted to meditate in the mornings, and so we'd sit in the basement, cross-legged, and most mornings I fell asleep. And also for many years, he recorded his dreams while he was living in Colorado, and then would regularly visit a Jungian dream analyst and talk with her about what they meant and how he could find meaning out of them. And I think all this shopping around was rooted in a sense of curiosity and admiration for different spiritual traditions. And so in the past 10 years, really in the past 10 years or so, my dad, he became increasingly concerned about how we can strengthen our human relationship with Earth. And he admired the approach of many indigenous spiritual traditions on this land and found that their wisdom provided answers to some of his questions about this aspect. And so after reading a book by Robin Wall Kimmerer, he and Steve both talked about the practice, the symbolism, and the significance of making braids out of grass, particularly sweetgrass. And in many native communities, sweetgrass is thought of as the hair of Mother Earth. The practice of braiding sweetgrass is often done in community, like we are today, and getting together to braid sweetgrass reinforces values of reciprocity, of interconnectedness, and can be a way to honor the earth. So Steve has been growing sweetgrass in his garden for a handful of years and brought some for people to braid today. He prepared supplies and directions for anyone who's interested. And I would say that braiding is much easier if you do it with somebody else. And so if you'd like to make a braid, you can pick up some grass, you can find a partner, and choose a quiet space to sit down. And while you braid, we invite you to share your connections with Dan and your memories of him. And I'd also encourage you to think about the idea of reciprocity and how we can continue to perpetuate the cycle of gift giving as a way to honor indigenous wisdom. And so if you'd like, please talk about the gifts my dad shared with you and ways that you feel excited to continue that circle of giving and receiving by sharing your gifts with others. Once sweetgrass braids are made, they're often given away as signs of kindness and gratitude. So after you finish your braid, you're welcome to keep it or give it away to somebody else in your life. We have another area for activities, and that is an area that set up a group weaving project that will be led by Susan Booker. And the end product of this project will serve as a memento that my mom will be able to bring back to New York with her and hang on her wall. And finally, we know that my dad was a lover of poems, and so we have a table full of poems that you can take with you today. Each one is folded into a shape. So pick up a poem or a shape that you like, and you're welcome to take it with you today. I just want to say, thank you once again. It's been really special to share this space, to be back in Boulder among so many faces of people who we know and who have so much love for my dad. And I'd like to close the service with a message that my dad gave me each day as he dropped me off at school. So I'll say it out loud once, and then I'll ask that you join me in repeating it out loud. And each day, as we pulled up to my elementary school, got out of the car, as I was about to close the door, he would look at me, and he would say, "Love yourself and love others." So now, please help me close out this service by repeating that message out loud all together. Love yourself and love others. Thank you all so much. Take good care of yourselves, and let's keep sharing stories about Dan.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh, this little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
I said this little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
All in my home.
I'm gonna let it shine.
You know, all in my home.
I'm gonna let it shine.
I said all in my home.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Gonna
Let it shine, let it shine, let
Let
it
it
shine.
shine. This little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh, this little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
I said this little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Everywhere I go.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh, everywhere I go.
I'm gonna let it shine.
You know, everywhere I go.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Gonna let it shine,
Let it shine, let it shine.
Oh, God, give it to me.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh, God, give it to me.
I'm gonna let it shine.
You know, God, give it to me.
I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
This little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh, this little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
You know, this little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All in my soul.
I'm gonna let it shine.
All in my soul.
I'm gonna let it shine.
You know, all in my soul.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh, this little light of mine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
You know, this little light of mine.
I'm gonna